Okay, hello. I read Verity by Colleen Hoover. I didn't enjoy reading Verity by Colleen Hoover, but I knew I wouldn't because I am not a fan of her writing style, her diction, her character names, her character situations, the type of smut she writes. I'm just not really a fan. But this book was gifted to me and I thought, okay, my very beloved sister told me this is the Colleen Hoover book that you would like. And I was like, okay, I will try. I feel like I need to explain that I don't have a problem with bad writing. You see Twilight on my shelf right here. But I also have had Wattpad since I was 11 years old, so my account is 12 years old. I had a 10-year anniversary party when my Wattpad account turned 10 years old. I love Wattpad. Wattpad is an amazing service. My opinion is simply that if you're going to read bad writing, you should do it for free on the internet. You should not pay $17 for a book like this. To explain this book, it is an attempt at a thriller romance novel. Okay, haven't read one of those in a while. I'm just gonna read the back of the book. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. First of all, never mind. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue loving her. Okay, first of all, the manuscript was finished, by the way. Why not just say that it was an autobiography? Why not? Anyway, so the book, from the very start of the book, it's very clear that Colleen Hoover really wants us to think this is a thriller. It begins with a man dying violently. Main character Lowen, I cannot get over the names in this book. All of her character names are abysmal, okay? Abysmal. Because the main character, Lowen, and she spells Ashley the wrong way, which is A-S-H-L-E-I-G-H, okay? And the wife's name is Verity, okay? That people are named that, I guess. Then one of Verity's kids, okay, they're named Chasen or Chasten, either one, horrible. Crew, C-R-E-W, Crew, okay, and Harper, which is normal, but still. And then like Colleen Hoover does this in her other books too. Like it ends with us, the main character's name is Lily Blossom Bloom. You expect me to take that character seriously? Like, bro. Anyway, so like the first sentence of the book is, I hear the crack of his skull before the spattering of blood reaches me. First of all, what the fuck is that sentence, bro? The diction is horrible. Horrible. I cannot. Look, I'm not saying I can do better. I'm not a writer. But oh my god. Oh my god. Reaches me? Say something better. The crack of his skull resonates before the blood spatters onto my face. Reaches me? Ugh, so lazy. So lazy. So bad. Basically, first chapter, she is covered in blood from this guy being run over by a car. Like his skull is underneath the tire. Okay. she is on her way to a meeting. She has no money. She ends up accepting this job offer. But before she goes into the meeting, she's helped by this stranger who's very cute. And they go into like a coffee shop restroom, and he helps her kind of clean up after the blood incident. She goes in. She realizes that the person who is offering this job to her is the guy from the coffee shop. That's fine, meet cute, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. Then he basically tells her, you should ask for more money in this deal, make more money out of it because we are super rich. And the offer is essentially that this author named Verity Crawford has been in this horrible accident. Nobody knows the extent of the accident. The public just thinks, oh, she was in a little car crash, but she's fine now. She's actually not. She's disabled and she's unable to write anymore. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna hire her on as a ghostwriter to basically finish the series that she's been writing. And the series is this super popular series that's written from the villain's point of view of this whole. That's all they kind of really tell you is it's written from the villain's point of view, and that's supposed to be special. Which, like, okay, not that special. Anyway, sorry, I'm just angry about this book. I think it's horrible, and we're gonna talk about it. So essentially, the main character, she's going to go stay at their house so that she can go through Verity's office and get all the information that she needs in order to finish this book series. Whilst she's there, she learns basically that both Jeremy and Verity's two twin daughters have died tragically. And then shortly after that, Verity was also in this car accident and was not able to, she's disabled and unable to care for herself. It's just, this family is like ridden with tragedy. It's like super awful, super sad. This character, Lowen, has not read any of Verity's work before. So she listens to one of her books on the way to the house because she has to drive all the way there, and it's like a 4-hour or 6-hour drive or something like that. And she's like, oh my god, she's actually really good, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And so she gets very nervous. So she arrives at the house. She's going through everything. She finds this manuscript, which is called So Be It. And it's this super concerning little, like... And I do like the way that Hoover structures the book. Like, she has regular chapters for what's being told from Lowen's perspective. And then she has, like, these different chapters, which are, like, got these, like, cursive things here to display which ones are Verity's chapters. And it's just kind of this autobiography that Verity has written, and the contents are really disturbing. Like, the first chapter, she's talking about how she met her husband. She, like, stole this fancy dress to go to this fancy party, and then she, like, found her husband, and, like, before he was her husband, and they, like, started hooking up in a limousine, and then they went to, like, a different house because he had, like, lied about being rich or whatever, and so, like, they went back to either her apartment or his apartment or something, or his car, I think. And so then and then about how their entire relationship was completely revolved around sex, and that she was, like, all she wanted from him was sex and, like, this relationship. And so they end up getting engaged, and she's just obsessed with Jeremy, basically. Like, she just wants to be with him. They get engaged, all that like good stuff. She, like, becomes pregnant, but she doesn't identify with being pregnant. Like, she hates being pregnant, and like, we'll go back to that. Lowen reads the first couple of chapters, and she's really disturbed by it. She's kind of connecting with the husband, like, he's calling her Lo instead of Lowen, and he helps her come up with, like, a fake pen name for helping Verity with the books, because, like, her whole thing is, like, she doesn't want publicity because she's not like other girls. She doesn't want publicity. She's just reading this, like, sex-crazed woman's, like, relationship story, which, like, okay, whatever. Lowen is kind of feeling guilty for reading this, and she's feeling kind of stalked by Verity. So, like, she feels like Verity's looking at her, and, like, the extent of, I don't really know what condition I could explain to try to describe what Verity's condition is like, but she's in a wheelchair, she's unable to walk, she doesn't have any spinal damage, so she's not paralyzed, but she her like brain function keeps her from being able to like do very much by herself. So she needs to be fed, she has to be chained, she has to be put to bed, stuff like that. So she's kind of I don't want to say a vegetative state, but she's not moving on her own. She's helped completely by a nurse. So she feels like she's being stalked by Verity. Verity doesn't speak. Verity doesn't like move her face or look. She doesn't react to like stimuli, stuff like that. But she's feeling like Verity is looking at her. She's feeling like Verity might not actually be disabled. At one point, she walks by Verity's room and she hears Crew talking to his mom. And Crew is the little 5-year-old boy who is not dead, because the other 2 children they passed away. And Crew has a knife, and he cuts himself on the knife. And then Lowen freaks out and like takes him to the bathroom to go clean up the wound. And then she goes back to the bedroom to show Jeremy the knife, and it's not there. And she's like, WTF, there was a knife, I'm going crazy. And this book is like trying to do like the psychological thriller thing where like you're feeling scared, but like from that exact moment the knife is gone, like you know immediately that Verity is faking it. Like the foreshadowing doesn't really work because it was a tangible object like that happened. It wasn't like seeing a person move or seeing, like, I feel like the issue is that it's not scary because Colleen Hoover didn't choose the right types of events that would scare someone or make them nervous or be unsure about whether somebody is like pretending to be in a vegetative state. She keeps reading the manuscript and she's getting more and more upset because Verity is describing doing things like fantasizing about killing her twin daughters, trying to kill her twin daughters when they were only 6 months old, attempting to abort her daughters when she realized that Jeremy was going to love them more than her. And it's a really disgusting way to talk about the mental struggles that women endure when they are dealing with pregnancy, because pregnancy and birth are some of the most traumatic things that can happen to you. And I say that not because it's traumatic for everybody, but because it is traumatic to literally your body. Your body goes through so much, not only hormonally, but physically, like your hips move, your stomach is massive, like so much goes on with pregnancy. It's huge. It's a really big deal, and a lot of people dismiss it just because so many people are able to be pregnant. And seeing it treated this way in this novel is really frustrating because Verity as a character, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's not just Verity, it's women who don't connect with their babies that's being demonized here, and it's really misogynistic because a lot of women don't connect with their babies right away when they're born. I can imagine that a lot of women feel frustrated that, oh my gosh, I just gave birth and I can't do any of the things that I normally would be able to do. I have to wear a diaper. I literally have stitches in my body because of giving birth. Like, that's really difficult to go through. I feel like there's this demonization of mothers going on, which they already deal with enough. And I feel like writing a thriller romance on top of that is insane, because it's like feeding into this crazy idea that it's like, you need a mommy makeover after you have a child. And like there's even comments from Verity herself, because there's like very clearly like she's writing from an internalized misogynistic point of view, and she's talking about how like, oh, thank God it was a cesarean section because otherwise my vagina wouldn't be perfect anymore, and like Jeremy wouldn't want me, because she's so like sex centered. Like she's basically describing, like when she's writing this character, she's describing like the evil woman. A lot of red pillars think is like a common thing is like the woman who cares only about sex, the woman who doesn't want a family because she only wants it to be like a relationship between her and her husband. She's so obsessed with men and dick that she feels like a child would get in the way of that for her. And like that's like this character that she's creating, and it's like a misogynistic caricature. And I I was mind blown while I was reading it, because I was like, there's no way, bro, there's no way. And then, of course, the minute she becomes disabled, the minute that she's unable to satisfy her husband anymore, he moves on with someone else. So, Lowen is becoming increasingly disturbed by what's written here in the manuscript. She's trying really hard to work on the series and like figure out how she wants to put together the last 3 books, because 3 books, she's write 3 books, and you know, I think she's getting paid like $500,000 to write 3 books. But she's reading about so like, okay, another weird thing, almost all of the smut in this entire book is written in this like manuscript. So it's Lowen reading these like sex scenes between her current love interest and his current wife. What the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Okay, it's messed up. It's messed up. Okay, anyway, so then like, because she's reading about it, she's like looking at him and like thinking about what Verity was thinking during like certain things she was writing about, and so it's just screwed up. Anyway, so she is like falling for Jeremy, and then Crew is like kind of saying like, oh, my mommy said this, my mommy said that, and she's like, your mommy talks to you? Your mommy talks to you? To the 5-year-old? And he's like, no, she doesn't talk to me. And so she's like suspicious, you know, and that's like way too early. That's like before chapter 10 that Crew starts saying that, which like is bad, because like it's too early in the book. Like, we're only halfway through. Everybody, like, I feel like the suspense needs to build more before then, okay? And you need to have smaller things, like fingers twitching, her seeming like she's listening to something, you know, like her behavior instead of her environment. She's spending more time with Crew and Jeremy and realizing like the trauma of losing the twin daughters is real. The family's really struggling. It's heartbreaking because they lost them one after the other. So one passed away, and then 6 months later the other passed away. Crew's only 5. I think the daughters were 8. It's difficult for Lowen to like be in the house and hear about it. Like, it's sad. She's having trouble. So she keeps reading the manuscript. The manuscript describes that after the twins are born, Verity basically doesn't connect with either of them. She encourages Jeremy to go back to work. Once Jeremy goes back to work, she sleeps all day and ignores the twins all day. And then right before Jeremy comes home, she feeds them, she bathes them, and then she makes a wonderful dinner, and so everything seems fine. And then Jeremy takes over after that, because he thinks that she's been caring for them all day. And then she's able to write. So she's basically neglecting her daughters, and she's writing about it, which, you know, is bad. People do that. It's fucked up. It sucks. People need more help. Then we learn about Lowen that she sleepwalks. Okay. She wakes up in Verity's bed with her. Yeah. So she leaves the room she's been staying in and wakes up in Verity's bed. Okay, so that's messed up. Then Jeremy's like, oh, I'll get you a lock for your room so you can lock yourself in at night. So she does that. She keeps reading the manuscript. Verity still doesn't love her daughters, but she's like kind of wanting to connect with Chasten. I still don't know how to say it, so Chasten. So she decides to connect with her. We learn in the book that Harper, the other twin, who she decides to not like, is diagnosed with autism. But it also kind of implies in the manuscript that Verity like got that diagnosis as a reason for why Harper was weird and for her to not like her, you know, like, or just like to be like, oh, see, she's not as good as Chasen, so I don't like her, because she like clearly favored Chasen. So yeah, basically eventually she starts favoring Chasen, and Jeremy calls her out, and she writes about it in the manuscript. he calls her out. He's like, hey, why are you treating Harper like this? It's like she's starting to notice it and it's hurting her feelings, blah, blah, blah. In order to make up for it, she lies and tells Jeremy that she's pregnant with another kid, which is Crew. And she isn't pregnant, but she gets pregnant real quick and plans to try to miscarry, because before she tried to abort the twins, it didn't work because she tried with a coat hanger instead of getting an actual abortion, and she ended up just scarring Jason's face. Like, Jason has like a scar on her cheek, which like obviously demonizes women who get abortions, which is like, okay. So things are starting to come to a head. Things are getting high strung. She's reading more chapters and realizes that Verity was convinced that Harper was going to murder Chasen. So that was the reason that she didn't like Harper. So Chasen had a peanut allergy. She goes to her friend's house, she eats peanuts, and she passes away via anaphylaxis. And she blames Harper. And then 6 months later, she takes Harper and Crew out on a little boat, because they have like a lake in their backyard because they're super rich, from her writing. And she basically says, Crew, hold your breath, and then knocks over their canoe, and then lets Harper drown because she couldn't swim. And then she saves Crew, and then she pretends like, oh my gosh, I couldn't save her, and that's what she writes about in the autobiography. Jeremy, I guess, is suspicious, and so she like hits herself with a car against a tree, and that's how she becomes disabled. Lowen freaks out. She shows Jeremy, because so Lowen and Jeremy are sleeping together at this point. They start hooking up. Lowen is certain she saw Verity standing at the top of the stairs at one point. She's like, oh my god, I saw her. So she shows Jeremy the manuscript. Jeremy murders Verity in front of Lowen. Lowen actually helps him. She says, well, don't smother her with a pillow. You have to make her throw up on herself so that she chokes on her own vomit, and then it doesn't look like it's your fault. So he does that. Lowen helps him, and then they get together, get married, and have a kid. Well, they don't get married. They get together, and then they go back to the house, and Lowen is like 7 months pregnant, and she finds where Verity was hiding the knife from earlier in the book, and it's like a little like wooden floor, like little fake area, right? So she opens it up and she finds a letter. And the letter is basically like, yeah, when I started writing books from villain's point of view, I was advised to do this thing called antagonistic journaling, where I journal about my real life, but I pretend I'm evil. And so she implies through this stupid letter that she was lying for all of the autobiography, and that she was going to try to explain before they killed her that it was actually not real. And then at the end of the book, Lowen... Okay, because I was mind-boggled that Lowen, first of all, helped with the murder and stayed with him. But I was even more mind-boggled when she stayed with him after this letter. I was like, bro, even if the letter's fake, why would you stay with this man? He murdered his wife. What? Anyway, and so like the end of the book is like, no matter which way I look at it, it's clear that Verity was a master at manipulating the truth. The only question that remains is, which truth was she manipulating? And she like stands by the murder. Bro, what the fuck? Anyway, so that book was effed up, misogynistic as hell. If you want to read bad romance, check out Wattpad, check out fanfiction.net, check out AO3. Go elsewhere. Read something for free. Do not pay $17 for this trash, because it's awful. The diction is horrible. She does this thing where when she's talking about Chasen's allergies, she says like, I told them all about her allergies. I told them all, and every single time she said it, she said all about the allergies. And she did that for multiple different characters too. And so that really annoyed me. I was like, there is no unique voice for any of the characters. They all sound the same, even though they're supposed to be different journaling. Like, it's really annoying. And I can tell she tried really, really hard to make this autobiography like really disturbing, but I wasn't particularly disturbed by it. And like, I like thriller stuff, I like scary stuff. One of my favorite chapters of a book is the opening chapter of The Hot Zone. It is terrifying and I love it. But I feel like having something like this, something misogynistic and demonizing mothers, demonizing women who don't want children, to write that and have it in print is so much more damaging than having it written on like a Wattpad page. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm disturbed by the Colleen Hoover obsession. I feel bad for people who like her. I think there's so much better writing to enjoy. There's so much more fun to have with writing in a way that's not going to demonize or manipulate or be literally just misogynistic. I think when you are writing something and it's supposed to have meanings and undertones and messages, you need to think about the multitude of messages that come from things. There's always going to be more than one perspective of what you write, and there's going to be so much more than what you intend. And so looking at it from a perspective of like, oh, writing this about a psychopath of a woman who hates her children because they take attention away from her and she can't have sex with her husband all the time anymore, like, maybe that's not an appropriate or accurate or representative thing to write. Like, I feel like maybe think about that. It reminds me of an article that I read about the guy who wrote Fire Island on Hulu. I haven't seen it, but I had to read an article about it for a class, and I read this article in which he writes about how Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice represented what it was like to be a gay man on Fire Island, and like what it was like not being rich when you're surrounded by all of these rich men. And I thought that that was so wonderful because, you know, I really like Jane Austen. I think she's an excellent writer, but seeing it apply to so many people, it highlighted to me the strength of writing and the strength of storytelling and how it can apply to so many people at so many times. Even if it's written necessarily for one thing, it can apply to so many things. The writing transcends generations, it transcends ethnicity, race, nationality, all these different things, and it can apply to so many different people. It's sad to read things that don't take any of their power seriously. I understand wanting to have something push the plot, something that raises the stakes. We see all the time people talking about women lose their worth after they've had children, and that was heavily implied in this book. And it sucks. That sucks to read. I don't want to be reminded of that when I'm trying to read a romance book. And I understand this is supposed to be a thriller, but that's not scary, that's angering. It made me angry to read that. But I don't know, I want to encourage people to do better, read better. Don't encourage Colleen Hoover and her cohort. I feel bad for people who like her, to be honest. I think people deserve better. And you deserve at least to not have to pay for your shitty romances. Go on Wattpad like the rest of us. You deserve your Wattpad phase. Go through it. You can do it at any age. Plus, Wattpad is better because you can read the comments while you're reading, because there's a comment section for every paragraph, and it's amazing and genius. So do that. I recommend Webtoon too. Get on that. Do it. It's fun. Yeah, I hope other people have read this or at least know about it. I know there are other YouTubers who have made videos. I didn't watch them because I didn't want to be influenced, but I'm 99% sure that Alizi made a video, and I love Alizi's channel, so I'll probably link it in the description. Her channel's also linked on my channel, so you should watch her videos because they're amazing. She has reactions to all of Onision's books and a couple other Colleen Hoover books, I think. She's just excellent. I really, really love her channel. I think Rachel Oates made a couple videos too, but they're friends, and Rachel goes on her podcast. So it's very fun. Definitely let me know what you think about Colleen Hoover, this book, especially It Ends With Us. I'd love to know your thoughts on the movie. There's going to be a film, I think, being made with Blake Lively, which is kind of a choice, playing Lily Blossom Bloom. So yeah, I'd love to start a conversation about this. I know Colleen Hoover has quite the versatile fan base, so hi. But yeah, I don't know. I just I hated this book. It was the worst 2.5 hours of my life. Not actually, but it was not good.